To today's edition of Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. Hope you are all doing great and having a wonderful start to your day or had a great day. This is always a time of the day I look forward to and hope that's the case with you as well. So we'll continue with our journey on the shloka that we are doing today. We are going to conclude that, and then we have a cherry on top towards the end. Okay, I'll keep it a bit of a suspense right now. I'll introduce what's going to happen. But let's get started. A very warm welcome. If you are new, we'd love to hear from you. We always put our feedback tracker towards the end, put in your name, provide your feedback. We'd love to hear from you. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen and we will get started with today's discussion. With our opening prayers. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam, Kamsa Chanuramardanam, Devaki Paramanandam, Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum, Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Okay, Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening to all of you once again. So let's get started. This is the shloka we are doing. We'll probably take a few hands. We have a lot of stuff lined up today, including the interesting discussion we are going to have today on the concept that we are going to speak about. So let's quickly recite it and then we'll get started. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tastatthaiva bhajamyaham mam vartamanu vartante Manushya Partha Sarvashaha. All right. Do we have a few hands? We can probably take 5 hands today and get started.
SSPG, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, SSPG.
Thank you, madam. First, ye yata mam prapatyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham mama vartamana vartante manushya partha sarvashaha.
Wonderful, very nice. Thank you, SSPG. Okay, we can take the remaining hands real quick.
Sai Ramji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe
Radhe Radhe. Ye yata mam prapadyante tanstataiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanu vartante manushya partha sarvashaha.
Wonderful, very nice. Thank you, Sai Ramji.
Manjuji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Manjuji.
Radhe Radhe. Ye yata mam prapadyante tanstataiva bhajamyaham mama vartamanu vartante manushya partha sarvashaha.
Nice, thank you. I hope that by now you all would have memorized this shloka. We've done it so many times. Okay, let's quickly take the remaining hands.
Riyaji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Ye yata mam prapadyante tanstataiva bhajamyaham mama vatmanu vartante manushya partha sarvashaha.
Wonderful, very nice. Thank you, Riyaji. Okay.
Radhe Radhe, Falguni ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Falguni.
Radhe Radhe. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tanstatthaiva bhajamyaham mama vartamanu vartante manushya partha sarvashaha. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. I see 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's pick up the remaining 4 hands and freeze the number of hands now.
Anita ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
ये यथा मां प्रपद्यन्ते तांस्तथैव भजाम्यहम् मम वर्तमानुवर्तन्ते मनुष्याः पार्थ सर्वेशः. Thank
Sarvasha.
you, Radhe Radhe.
Junita ji. Okay.
Rina ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Yeah, ma'am.
राधे राधे ये यथा मां प्रपद्यन्ते तांस्तथैव भजाम्यहम् मम वर्तमानुवर्तन्ते मनुष्य पार्थ सर्वशः. Thank you, राधे राधे.
You, Shriram. Yeah. All right. How many hands do we have? 3 more hands, I see.
Rupa ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe everyone. Ye yata mam prapadyante tamstataiva bhajamyaham mama vartamanu vartante manushya partha sarvashah.
Very nice. Thank you, Rupa ji. All right. 2 more hands, real quick.
Radhe Radhe, Shyam ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tastathav bhajamyaham mam vartamanu vartante manushya partha sarvashah. Radhe Radhe. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Last but not the least, Sandhya ji.
Radhe Radhe, Sandhya ji. Yeah, please.
Radhe Radhe. ये तमां प्रपद्यन्ते तंस्तथैव भजाम्यहम् मम वर्तमानुवर्तन्ते मनुष्या पार्थ सर्वशः.
Wonderful. Very nice. So let's go ahead, proceed with this shloka. This shloka, Lord is saying that in whatever way people surrender unto me, I reciprocate accordingly. Everyone follows my path knowingly or unknowingly, O son of Pritha. Now the question, we have reached this stage of the shloka, we have spoken about both the concept, the principle of reciprocation, how God is obliged to reciprocate in the same quantity at the same time, in the same emotion, what we feel for him. And also the fact that whether you are a believer or not, everybody knowingly or unknowingly is following the path of God only, because we are serving his material energy and we are seeking bliss. So we are not only serving God, but also seeking God. Right? So in other ways, technically, nobody is an atheist. You may not acknowledge it right now, but it's a matter of time, or maybe a matter of lifetime, or maybe a matter of lifetimes before that realization will dawn upon you, and then you're on that track to your spiritual journey. So let's move on and talk about what we have today. So with regards to reciprocation, right now we reached a stage, okay, so that I'm going to build it up on. We reached a stage where we said, okay, from a spiritual journey standpoint, the initial starting point for people is God acknowledging, right? They start acknowledging there is some divinity. Then, of course, people start becoming God-fearing, something bad is going to happen, right? So God-fearing aspect comes, and then you can actually take on any of these. God-revering, and where you respect God, you are in awe of God, and or you love God. So we spoke about the concept of the Aishwarya Shakti of God yesterday. And today we will introduce the other aspect, the sweeter aspect of God is what we are going to talk about and see the difference between the two. Okay. And why is it even important, right? From a devotion standpoint. So the hope is that by the end of this discussion, we are able to appreciate, all the, processes that we follow, whether it is deity worship or the bhavs that we inculcate towards our Ishtadev. Why is it important? And how does it help us in our devotion? So let's get started. We spoke about Bhag yesterday, quick recap. The one who has all the Shad Aishwarya, all the beauty, knowledge, strength, wealth, fame, detachment is Bhagwan. All of us are attracted towards, beauty, knowledge, strength, wealth, fame, and detachment, and God has it in abundance to infinite extent and permanently. And that is why he's called Bhagwan. And this is what we had spoken about yesterday, that, when we look at building an alliance with somebody, even in this world, right? Boy is trying to find a girl, or girl is trying to look at people in their same class. There has to be some kind of a common denominator. And when we look at it from do an Aishwarya Chintan of God is so magnificent, right? When he showed his cosmic form to Arjun, and yesterday we spoke about that Leela, Narsingh Leela, it is, too overwhelming for a normal soul to even grasp the concept of who God is. We spoke about one of the breaths of God. He opens his eyes and he annihilates the world. One breath is equal to 100 years of Brahmaji, where one kalp of Brahmaji's, we saw the calculations, mind-boggling calculations of how it goes. So this basically, when we look at do the Aishwarya Chintan of God, we will be filled with awe and reverence only. And it will seem what, God is so far and God is so magnificent and I don't stand a chance, basically, kind of deal when we do the Aishwarya Chintan. Or at best, you may have a respect for God. So the good news is, what is the good news? God has two aspects to his personality. Okay, what are those two aspects? The first aspect is the Aishwarya, which is his opulences and almightiness. That is definitely part of God because God is who God is. However, he has another aspect to his personality, which is called Madhurya Bhav, or the sweetness that he carries. Okay. So how does he hold on to these two contradictory attributes together? Is the question, right? We'll take some analogy and example to see that happens in the world as well. And God is God, right? He can carry both aspects of his personality with perfection as needed. So let's get started. Let's look at an example or an analogy to drive home the point, as we often do and as we always do. So here is, okay, now let's first understand why do we even need to care about the Madhurya aspect of it? Because we need to relish the ras. How do we relish ras? What is ras? We spoke about it, right? That was a question in quiz. I have fine-tuned that definition based on what Swamiji had said. So yes, it's a quintessence of bliss, but there's something which else also that prefix it. It is quintessence of the sweetness of the bliss is called ras. Okay, this is the more complete definition, right? So that means ras is even more so than bliss. Now, bliss is fine. Ras is even more than bliss. Now, how do we understand this, right? These concepts. Let's try to understand it through a regular example, okay? And I think it's going to make your mouth water now because we're going to talk about ras here. So let's look at an analogy so that you're able to appreciate this concept, right? Now, chenna plus sugar syrup, what does it make? It makes, when you put ras in gulla, what we get is rasgulla, right? So this is ras you have put in gulla, so it has become rasgulla. Chenna plus sugar syrup, it becomes rasgulla. Now, can you increase the bliss of a rasgulla? Of course you can. How do you? Now with milk, you can actually make rasmalai. You see that rasmalai? It tastes even better, right? Something more has happened. Can you increase it further? Of course you can. You garnish it with pista, badam, etc. You see this? Kesar rasmalai. So you can keep on increasing the ras. There's a possibilities are immense. In material world, they may be limited, but in spiritual world, they are not limited. So I hope you're able to appreciate, there's something called bliss, and then you can keep on garnishing it, embellishing it, increasing it. So that is how it works. So when you have God, right, when you're talking about God, now Aishwarya part of it is majesty. Of course, there's a ras. If you realize God in his Aishwarya Chintan, there is ras. God realization is God realization. Right? You are able to transcend Maya. You are beyond the material clutches and you are in the presence of God. It is a big ras. Even moksha has ras for that matter. But then is that, can you fine tune it further, embellish it, garnish it to increase the ras? And that is what we are going to talk about. Yes, Aishwarya Chintan is there, but then it is devoid of ras that we are going to talk about. This is what we are going to talk about. It's probably a plain gulla or maybe a rasgulla. But rasgulla can be taken to another levels, as you can see, rasmalai and kesar, pista, badam, rasmalai and stuff like that. So in order to relish the sweetness of bhakti, what is needed is, this is the Aishwarya form of God. We need to take the minus the Aishwarya Chintan of God. And when we do that, That's when we put his almightiness aside and just think he's mine, now the love will increase. Now that rasa is going to increase. Okay. In Aishwarya, what will you do? You can get freak out, or you can at best worship him or say, oh God, forgive me, or oh God, you are so magnificent. I am so tiny. I'm so puny. All that gap is bridged in a moment when you take his almightiness away. So if you look at the picture down below, like Lord Krishna is cuddled by his mother and then Sakhi's gopis and all that stuff. So how are they able to achieve that? With somebody who's an almighty, somebody who is the master of this universe, who's the Jagatpati, who's the ultimate CEO, right? We are scared of our employer. Yeah, if you're a teacher, you might be scared of your invigilator or a principal. If you're in your company, you're scared of your manager, your CEO. If they come, there's an awe and reverence for them. But here, God is willing to come down to your level, provided you are willing to take that Aishwarya Chintan off. Okay, so in order to enjoy the ras, like we see, you can increase it in Rasgulla with Rasmalai and Pista Badam and all that stuff. There are so many embellishments you can do in your ras. That is what we're going to talk about. But for that, you need to take his magnificence aspect away from your mind. Aishwarya Chintan has to be discarded, rejected. It's like he is mine, I'm his, I'm also his, and then you proceed. Okay, and God loves that part. So the Swarup Shaktianand that we spoke about, of course, God gets it when we become God realized, but the level of Swarup Shaktianand, or the fine tuning or the finer ras, we have an ability to increase it by reducing that Aishwarya Chintan and building a personal connect with God. So let's look at it through a material example to drive home the point. So here is a judge. You see this judge? Like, judges are pretty feared personalities. And it is said, when you are hungry, don't shop. Because when you are hungry, you will shop a lot of junk stuff. Check it out, it happens. And when you are hungry and you are pronouncing a judgment, statistically, it is proven that they pronounce more death sentences, severe punishments before lunch hour than after lunch hour. Okay. I don't know. It's human psychology. You become hungry, that leads to anger. So you become hangry. So just think of this judge. Now, judge, when he says order, order, right, that is what judge say. The criminals, they also shiver. You see, is this guy shivering? I hope you're able to catch his shivering. Okay. If not, now you can catch it. So the big criminals, they shiver when he says order, order. However, when he's getting back home, his mother would say, Munna, get some seasonal mangoes on the way. Mother is not concerned who he is, right? In fact, she may even scold him when he's back. He says, when will you become intelligent or have some sense to know what kind of mangoes to be picked up? Okay, you've gotten it all wrong again. Mother doesn't care, right? So that Aishwarya Chintan, you see, he is judge. People fear him in his official form. Now that has subsided. Mother will treat him like his own. Okay, let's take it a little further. Kids at home, she will say, Papa, become a Goda, become my horse. And the same judge who people were fearing, now he's become quite innocuous and playing with kids as well, right? He's becoming willing to become Ghoda as well at home. So the Aishwarya Chintan is again kept aside, right? If the kid will think, oh my God, my dad is so fearsome in office, and mother would think, they don't have that Chintan at all, right? So they keep it aside. Now, if the kid comes to his office when he's about to pronounce a judgment and say, Papa, become Ghoda here, will Papa become Ghoda there? No, right? Why? Because he has to assume that Aishwarya form there. That is essentially what happens. So when you go to Lord Vishnu, he has to maintain a protocol. You go to Lord Shiv, he has to maintain a protocol, right? He cannot become Ghoda Gadi and all that stuff he'll start doing with you. So there's a reason for every form that God takes, because he has to live up to that, right? And the rust that he imparts, of course, he'll reciprocate in what form you're looking at, but then he has to live up to his forms as well, right? So now let's take it a little further, this whole concept, and say he's at home with his wife. And if you say order, order, you can imagine what will happen, right? no order there. Okay, you just obey in those cases. So with spouse, this order will just not work. So you see the shift that happens all the way from being a judge to the transformation that this person is feeling at home. It's the same person, but in one place it is an Aishwarya aspect of it which is manifesting, and in other where the persons who are interacting with him have taken away that Aishwarya Chintan, they're able to interact freely with him, right? And they have a different bhav altogether. Let's reinforce this concept. So now devotion motivated by fear is the lowest kind of devotion. Swami Vivekananda had said that. Okay. Yes, Imanshu, you wanted to add something?
Hello everyone. Just a very quick, funny analogy to add. Like if a son has Harley Davidson bike, the mother doesn't really care about it because of the Madhurya Bhav. She just asks the son to go and buy dahi from Gopal stores on a Harley Davidson. So it's like the Aishwarya is there, Harley Davidson, but the devotee doesn't care.
Very true. Mother doesn't care, right? He said, you may be having a Harley or whatever, go get some dahi for me because that's what I care for, because I have to serve you breakfast, right? Very true. Very nice analogy. So yes, that's how it works. And God loves that aspect. He's actually wants to indulge with devotees at a very personal level. It multiplies his ras as well. It's not like God enjoys, okay, you respect me and come and say Shantakaram, Bhujaram, all the Sahasranama and all that stuff, that Vedic mantras, he relishes. No, that is there. But then if you can build a personal rapport, that is much more relishable and enjoyable by God. Okay, that is a concept that has to be understood. Very key concept. Let's reinforce this concept. This is a king, right? He's a king. And this king has his people as well, right? So they have some kind of a relationship. So they can look at king from far. Do they have a free access to his palace? They don't have it. You know, they have to go to the gatekeeper and then tell them who they are and all that stuff. So it has to happen. So of course there is a, you know, like a judge. Of course, you know, we are just trying to reinforce this analogy. You know, he's a king. Now he has his praja. So they have a relationship which is from distant and far. Then he has a servant. He has access to his personal room because he has to carry certain things for the king. So now the proximity is more with the servant because servant has some special privileges just by virtue of being his personal servant. And furthermore, if you look at friend, now if a king's friend would come, they can joke with each other as well, right? There was a guy, you know, he's a judge, and then at home he's watching TV and his friend comes and he sits along with him on his sofa and they start joking and watching TV and all that stuff together. So the servant looks at it and they say, looks like my master enjoys more when, you know, the person sits with him. So just imagine the servant comes and starts sitting with his master because he thinks that he'll enjoy it more. So he'll say, have you gone crazy? What is going on here? So of course there's a decorum when you are a das or a servant. And then when you are a friend, there are more privileges. The friend will even narrate incidents that might embarrass the master. They'll pull up incidents from college and stuff like that, right? So friend has more privileges than the servant itself. And then you have, you know, the kids or the mother, father, right? Now the Vatsalya Bhav comes in picture where they have even more access to Papa. They can make them Koda at their place, right? And you know, the parents also have more access to the person because they can twist their ear and talk things that friends cannot. And in today's world, right, when somebody starts lecturing their friend, they say, don't be my mom or don't be my dad, right? They say that. Why? Because they have more access. They can say that, friends can't say that. So they'll say, okay, don't try to be my mom here or don't try to be my dad here. So that means mom, dad, or kids, they have more rights here. And then spouse, of course, the spouse, you can imagine, right? They have much more rights and they can, they basically play all the roles as need be. So now if we replace this king, king is replaced. Who takes this position? God takes this position, okay? Now when God takes this position, if you look at it, all these bhavs will come. What are these bhavs? We have spoken about this. This could be a session in itself, so I will not get too deep into that. So when you have that distant relationship, it is called a Shanta Bhav. When you have a master-servant relationship, subject-object is Shanta Bhav from a distance. It's my king. You can't go to king's palace just like that, right? You have to be somebody, or you need to take special permission for that. Dasya bhav is the, where you have proximity to the king. Sakha bhav, much more. Vatsalya bhav, madhurya bhav. So these are the different bhavs in which we can build relationship with God. And basically that Rasmalai, Rasgulla example that I gave, we can fine tune the ras here. So if you look at it, the ras is increasing in each bhav. What a shant bhav person can enjoy, Dasya bhav is much more than that. A Sakha can enjoy more, Vatsalya can enjoy even more, and Madhurya can enjoy even more, right? But what is the key to all these things? The key is to, again, go back to this, when we spoke about this example, where we have to take the Aishwarya Chintan off, right? We don't think about his almightiness and have a personal relationship that we are willing to form with God. That is the key to enjoy these finer tastes with God. And God enjoys that much more than we do, based on the fact that, he resides within us and enjoys that ras as well. So he doesn't enjoy when you glorify him and, consider, even for you, right? Would you enjoy people coming? I mean, maybe somebody would, but generally when we can let our hair down and be ourselves, that is when we feel more comfortable, as opposed to following an etiquette and, being in a official form in front of people. Right? Why do we meet like reunions or meeting our friends? Because we can be ourselves, right? We don't have to worry about what people will think or judge and stuff like that. And same as with God. He comes, takes his form, leelas like Krishna, he does to reveal his nature. This is who truly I am. This is what I like. This is what I love. Now you take and cash it by building a good rapport, that personal connect with me, and I will relish it even more. I'll appreciate it even more. That is a key concept. Yes, go ahead, Sandhya. Now we will relish a beautiful Leela today to talk about, what are the kind of ras God is capable of giving us. But before we get into that, let's take a couple of hands who have raised. So,
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. I had this question. So we will experience more of ras as we go to a bhav which is more closer to God. For example, Madhurya bhav, we will experience highest amount of ras. Will it be the same for God as well? Like just asking from the perspective of Tat Sukh Sukhitvam. So
yes, it is said that, of course, the more closer you can get to God, the finer the taste will get for God as well, right? So Madhurya Bhav, and within Madhurya also there are so many levels. So there's no limit to how much finer you can keep on making. So the maximum ras that a soul can get, I think they can go up to Kunj ras, I believe, Kunj or Nikunj, one of these two. That is at best a soul can give to God, basically, or gain for themselves. Because beyond that, it is reserved for Ashtamahasakhis, and beyond that, it is reserved only for Radharani, because they are they are different altogether, right? They're God's own extensions, basically. But yes, as it keeps on getting finer, it is more relishable both for the soul and God.
thank you.
It's like bitter butter, better butter, better butter, you keep on. There's no Purnima in Bhakti. Yes, any other questions?
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. Deepji, there is a question in the chat from Archana ji. Could that lead to disrespect of God? And is there a fine line between disrespect and being friends with God?
No disrespect to God. In fact, even in Dasya Bhav, when you get, in Bhavs, in Dasya, the master and servant, the servant or the Dasya lines also get blurred. Hanumanji can sit on top of Ramji's head, and God forgets who he is, servant forgets who, Das forgets who he is. So when we are in these bhavs, basically with God, nothing is bad or impure. Okay, we are thinking with our material consciousness here. That is why probably this question is coming. But when you start building your personal connect, see, if you are building a connect, if your Ishtadev is Lord Shiva or Lord Ram, of course you have to maintain a protocol, right? Because he was in a Maryada Purushottam avatar, so you understand. So you can only relate to those leelas. But when in Krishna avatar, God has given you complete freedom. So there's nothing like disrespecting God and stuff like that, as long as you are approaching it with the bhav that, he is mine. Only thing that is emotion that is dominant in inculcating these bhavs are he is mine and I want to serve him. That's it. Doesn't matter at that point, right? There are so many leelas where God actually goes with the bhav, not the act that you are doing. So if your bhav is to serve him or to love him, that's all he cares for. Yes. Yes, Survi, you wanted to add something?
Radhe Radhe, Urvi.
After this, I will tell you Johnny, Johnny, yes, Papa. So we have a story of Kana, Kana, yes, Mummy. Okay. So yes, go ahead, Urvi.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to ask something to what Sandhya Didi asked. So I like heard it from, I guess, Maharaji or Swamiji, but I have got confused. One of them. So it was like they told that, when we are in the Madhurya Bhav, and it's like if Krishna wants us to be in the Sakhya Bhav, then we can go down to that Bhav. So whatever Bhav Krishna wants us to be in, if we are in the Madhurya Bhav, then we can shift to that Bhav. So ultimately, we can, align ourselves with Tat Sukh Sukhitvam in the best way possible if we are in the Madhurya Bhav.
True. Madhurya Bhav, it gives you the flexibility to descend down, even in the world, right? When your beloved has much more rights over you than anybody else, and they can descend down to any level. They can become your subject. They can be like, okay, I'll serve you. They can become friend. They can even treat you like a kid, right? So God says, I'm open for all of that. You want to treat me like your king, Dwarkadhish, or in my Narayan form, that's fine. If you want to become my Das, where you say, I want to do your Charan Sevan, like Lakshman used to fight with Sita Mata, I want to do that. Hanumanji was like, he's the Parikashtha of Dasya Bhav. God said, fine. He said, if you want to take care of me like your friend, I will do that too. And if you want to take care of me as your kid, be my guest, because I will surrender myself to you and you take care of me. That my kid has gotten cold, or now I need to take care of him. I need to dress him up. He said, I will do that as well. And if you want to treat me like your beloved, do that as well. See, in personal connection, the liberties are much more, right? Even Maharajji's mother would call him, hey, Ram Kripalu, come here. This is how she would treat him, because she will not have that Aishwarya Chintan. But when she would get angry, he would say, hey, Jagat Guru, come here. So that Aishwarya Chintan is coming when she's upset, not when she's calling him fondly or in love, right? So that is how it happens. You forget all the Maryadas and protocols at that point. Maryada protocols come when you are thinking of him as in Aishwarya Chintan or official form. Maryada protocols take a back seat at that point because it's pure love at that point. And that is the difference between Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganuga Bhakti. Vaidhi Bhakti is rules, regulations, protocols, right? Do this, do it like this many chants, do that, increase your chants. Mechanical stuff is more. But Vaidhi or Raganuga Bhakti is all about inculcate love and sentiment and emotion about it, and rest can take a back seat around it. All right, let me cover this Leela because we have something very interesting today, and I want to give a good amount of time for that. Now, what is common between somebody who's worked in NASA, a NASA scientist, who knows Raj Kapoor, right? And then Maharajji Swamiji, right? What is common between them? So you'll have to think about that. And now we're going to, not now, after the Leela, we're going to have a presentation that will be super inspiring to all of us. I'm personally looking forward to it. I'll make a quick introduction of the person and somebody who has so many feathers to his cap, including being known as Flash in his youth time when he used to play table tennis, right? And he's worked in NASA, and he's a very exciting, interesting personality, and he's popularly known as Mr. Meenu Kapoor. Okay, so just hold on for that. We have an exciting presentation coming up. Vikas, you had a quick question before I move on to that Leela part of it.
I just want to say the gratitude note to you and everyone. Thank you for organizing every day this meeting. So thank you, Nitin Kostal sir, and thank you, Sandhya Di, for organizing this introduction to the Bhagavad Gita. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, thank you. The pleasure is all ours, and thank you for giving the slice of 60 minutes of your life to us every day. And the pleasure is all ours. As you know, it's a seva. Swamiji has enabled that platform for us, so we all can benefit from it. So we all are very fortunate in that sense. But thanks for thanking, regardless. So let's move on. So here is the Leela Kana Kana Ya Mama. Okay, so this is the Leela name, like Johnny Johnny Yes Papa. So this is the original one. So here is the Leela where now let's look at the Vatsalya. One of the bhavs we spoke about. So let's understand how this Vatsalya Leela unfolds when God comes. Okay, so we will try to relish this beautiful Leela before the exciting presentation that is going to come up. Now the Sakhas, as you see behind the scene, they complain to Yashoda Maiya. You know what? That your Lala has eaten mud. Kids do that. They go and have that sense of one-upmanship over somebody and say, just complain to the mother that he has eaten mud. Then what happens? Mother says, Kanhaiya, have you eaten mud? She asks him very sternly. And what does Kanhaiya say? Kanhaiya is very smart. He says flat no. Of course not, she says, Mommy, I have not. And why is he saying no? He's saying no because, and he says, if you have any doubt, open my mouth and check. And why is saying that? Because he thinks that if he says it with confidence, right, like kids do with confidence, flat lie, people will understand. Okay, so he's a master psychologist. He's telling us how mind and intellect works in Bhagavad Gita, right? He's going to tell when he grows up. So he knew. He said, I'm going to sell it confidently, and that's it. The matter will get resolved. So he simply says a very flat no and says, if you still have question, you can open my mouth and check. Okay, very confidently. Now, mother has not grayed her hair for nothing, right? So she's smart. So what she says is, all right, go ahead and open it then. Now what happens? So he is trapped now. Kana is trapped. Mother has actually not fallen for his confidence, false confidence. And she's saying, go ahead and open your mouth. Now I'm going to check it. Now what does Kana do? Now he's thinking, should I open it or should I not? Right? And he starts trembling. He starts trembling because mother is mother, right? And he's actually eaten mud. So he has not pleaded guilty. In fact, he has gone on to show some false confidence and he started trembling when that happens. Nevertheless, Kunti was watching this Leela as well, by the way, mother of Pandavas. And she was thinking that what kind of a Leela now this person is doing. The sun and move under his direction. The Sakshat Kal is fearful of him. And he's trembling in front of his mother. What kind of a Leela it is? Okay, that is the beauty of, God's sweetness form. Now his Aishwarya thing is gone. By his Yogamaya, he just suppresses it. So Yogamaya Shakti is actually, his Aishwarya Shakti is banished from Braj. But finally he decides to open because if he doesn't, it's anyway confirmed. If he's not opening, then it's confirmed he's eaten meat. But then he says, let me take my chance. Krishna is smart. He thinks mother is anyway aging. Maybe her eyesight will miss it. Okay, because of her weak eyesight, she may miss it. So let me open it and take my chance because I'm anyway cornered, right? And then Aishwarya Shakti came because now the master is in trouble. Aishwarya Shakti has to intervene. The Aishwarya, the part of it, because she's the actual servant. Actual servant would serve the master regardless of what master is saying, because the servant is always considering the welfare of its master, regardless of how master is treating with it. Other Nakli servant will say, okay, thank you. Okay, you've given me leave today. I'm going to chill out today. But Aishwarya Shakti is his actual servant. So he said, no, my master is in trouble. She could feel it. And I have to take control now. Okay. And it used to serve Krishna secretly, even in Braj, right? For example, if he's walking and there are kankars and thorns coming, it will make the grass softer. So those little sevas, Aishwarya Shakti continued to do in Braj for Krishna, despite Krishna said, okay, you don't have to come here. Right? By his Yogamaya, he doesn't want to, have anything to do with the Aishwarya Chintan because he's in full-blown Leela and he wants to enjoy the rest of a devotee. But Aishwarya Shakti continued to do its job. So, right now, Aishwarya Shakti did its job and it showed the Virat Swarup to Yashoda Maiya. And Yashoda, now she became perplexed. She was like, okay, what's going on here? And she started swaying from side to side and having some kind of a vertigo. And Krishna, on the other hand, he has closed his eyes, expecting a whack, right? That mother is going to slap me and or maybe wield a stick. Something is going to happen, right? You close your eyes, you open your mouth and you close your eyes. Okay, now she's going to see the mud. Now she's okay. It's going to. So this is what he's thinking. He has no clue what's going on here because Aishwarya Shakti has secretly crept in there. Okay. And then now he's thinking, have I been saved? Maiya is, and then he opens his eyes a little bit to see what's going on. Nothing has happened. I have not gotten a wax oven. And then he looks at his mom and he thinks, have I been saved? Why is she swaying from here and there? And then he realizes his Aishwarya Shakti has come and he said, go. I had told you not to come here. And then through his Yogamaya power, he makes his mother forget. And again, the things are normal. And Yashoda also thinks maybe I'm aging. My eyesight was okay, but my BP might not be okay. That is why I was swaying from side to side. And things are forgotten and things carry on. So this is how Krishna plays Leela. by hiding his Aishwarya Chintan and giving full Vatsalya ras to, mother, father, full friendly or sakha ras to his friends, and of course, Madhurya ras to gopis, like we see that. So this is how the Leelas unfold. So the key thing is we need to take the Aishwarya Chintan aside and focus more on his Madhurya Chintan. That will help us in devotion and gives us a basis for devotion, because now we can relate to God. He's somebody approachable. He's somebody like us. He's mine. So that was the whole idea. With that said, we can continue a little bit more on Sunday if time be, but otherwise we can move on. But then